Disclaimer. I am a law student, and the legal information provided is not legal advice. For that, please hire an attorney. Hi! Let's begin with a hypothetical. Let's say that we have a famous writer. All right? Now let's say that this writer, okay, for the most part is beloved by everyone. All right? Goes out and makes a, oh my god, chat. Goes out and writes a massive series of books that a lot of people seem to really enjoy. She is pretty widely known by like everyone basically in the world. And yeah, let's say that for the most part, up until recent history, she kind of goes about doing her due, living her life, and everyone just kind of seems to like her generally. Now, let's say that a couple months ago, all right, from whenever the hypothetical is taking place, a couple months prior, this writer starts tweeting out some questionable things, right? Calling out, talking about concerns about women's rights and men invading women's spaces and just worried about our girls. And a lot of other things that are generally kind of interpreted by a large number of people to be pretty yikesy, right? Especially like pretty signaling of transphobia, all right? Especially since a lot of these same concerns have basically been used as like misleading dog whistles against trans people for the longest time. So a lot of people point out, hey, author, these are really bad. You're spreading misinformation and the same kind of like rhetoric that's been used against trans people for a long time. Now, let's say that after people try to signal to this author, hey, this is bad, it's spreading misinformation, it's transphobic, please stop. Let's say that the author doesn't. Let's say that the author says, no, I love trans people. I care so much about trans people. I want the best for trans people. I just think that what we're teaching our children is a new form of gender ideology to convert our young children against their own sexuality. I just think that this gender ideology is being pushed on the children. I just think that men are trying to appropriate this to invade women's spaces. I just think that our rights are being infringed on. And let's say that people, again, point out, this is all crazy. Not only are these claims completely baseless, not only is there no evidence to support that this is a problem that's actually happening, but you're literally just fear-mongering against trans people. And so after that, instead of apologizing, instead of coming out and being like, oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I realize now that people point out to me how this was wrong, that I was wrong. I apologize. Let's say that instead of doing that, the author goes out and writes an entire book about, quote, a man in a dress going around and using that disguise, again, heavy quotations, to murder cis women. Get to that in a second. Question. Do you think that this author really has the best intentions of trans people in her mind, in her motivations for going about and doing these things? Hey everyone. Lumi, holy shit. Thank you for that rate of 208 people. Hello there, fam, friends, friendos, friend compatriots. How are you? How are you all doing? It's great to be here. I am so excited today. I'm so excited. Because really, I think that this is a conversation I've wanted to have for a while. This is a conversation I've wanted to have for a long, long goddamn while, right? Because I think that, like, honestly, like, all right, so, like, the hypothetical is obviously J.K. Rowling, right? Like, it's obviously J.K. Rowling, but that's not where the conversation is going, actually. Surprising enough, what we are talking about is the nature of good faith, all right? And being able to inductively reason, almost to an absolute certainty, a couple key things about what someone believes and what someone's intentions are, okay? So with that, let's go ahead into our first topic. Some of you might have heard about this. I certainly heard about it. It was a decently big thing on Twitter. Yeah. So Blaire White put out a new video, a new fantastic, awesome video for us to review. Which is just great. She don't stop. Queen don't stop. And this one is called Trans Athlete. I belong in women's sports. Get over it. It's gonna be one of those days, fam. It's gonna be great. So the interesting thing about this, right? Because we're gonna get into it. But as a preliminary matter, because I didn't actually learn about this video from, usually what I'll do is every week I'll check up on like the standard conservative reactionary kind of YouTube figures, see what they're talking about, see if there's any arguments I want to rebut, see, what's happening, right? This I actually heard about from Twitter. I want to talk about the context going in here, right? So some people may have seen this, and actually, I want to talk about this a little bit because, like, the last video I made about about Blaire, I made it with Lonerbox, right? We talked about how Blaire was making the same kind of arguments as Sargon of Akkad in defending J.K. Rowling, right? The idea behind doing that was because basically I have been told by people who know Blaire, who genuinely believe her to be a good person. And that, up until recently, has been the assumption I have been operating on, all right? I've been operating on that. I've been trying. I've been really trying. And so basically the past couple videos I've made about Blaire have been, yes, critical, but also I've been trying to be persuasive. I've been trying the best I can to try and meet her on her level, and to try and be like, listen, Blaire, if this is some kind of rhetorical strategy, it's just bad objectively. Don't do it, even if you think it has some benefit. All right? I don't have any faith in the Blaire redemption arc. I'm sorry, I don't at this point, and this is the reason why. So, yeah, this is, in case we didn't see earlier, this is the thumbnail for the video we're about to watch, right? This is the thumbnail. Some immediate things to note, explicitly using a pre-transition photo of a trans woman, very savory, very, oh, amazing, Blaire, that's super duper trans ally uwu of you, isn't it? That's great. That's so fucking great, isn't it? Such a good trans ally for using a pre-transition photo of someone. I mean, before anything else, fuck you for that. And then secondly, the person who she actually made this whole video about, because mind you, we're gonna get into the video, but as a preliminary matter, this is a statement put out by the person that the video is about. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's have a good goddamn chat about this. It has come to my attention that YouTuber Miss Blaire White posted a video about trans athletes today in which she decided to feature me. Unfortunately, everything she said about me was incorrect, and as a result, I am receiving a lot of hate. I've been very clear about the fact that all the records I have broken and all the championships that I have won in powerlifting were prior to my transition when I was still competing in men's division. I have also been very vocal about the fact that I have never competed as a woman and have no intention of doing so in the future. This is not representative of my beliefs at all on trans athletes, only my personal choice for myself. So if you see my comments or posts in other places, which I'm sure many of you will, you now know the truth, and if you feel inclined, please feel free to contact whoever is posting misinformation. Thanks, everyone. Yep. I contacted my lawyer, but honestly, I've had worse happen in the past, and there really wasn't much luck that could be done. Yeah, because that's basically what happens in these kind of situations, right? For the most part, the best that she could probably hope for, and again, mind you, disclaimer, educational purposes, we only talk about the law in insofar as educational purposes are concerned. There aren't many laws against like discrimination on the internet. I learned recently by talking to a couple of my friends in the ACLU, which is wonderful to learn about. The best you could usually go for is probably like a tort action, which is something like a libel or slander, right? But yeah, that can be really hard to prove, especially because you always have to prove monetary damages. And how do you measure the monetary damages of being slandered by someone in a YouTube video? It's always fucking hard, right? And even then, you have to find lawyers who are willing to take it. You have to be able to afford it. You have to be willing to go through the entire process. It's a massive fucking hassle. All right. So yeah, that's the context that we have going into this, fam. So mind you, we're gonna make the trans sports arguments, I'm sure. But yeah, just like, not only is, I mean, I'm basically sure that whatever she says about trans athletes is probably going to be fucking wrong. I'm sorry. My hopes are not high at this point. But the fact of the matter is, we already know going in that she just blatantly lied. And this is going to be important, but for something that I want to talk about later on. So without further ado, why don't we just fucking get into it?
Some of the big name lifters and a lot more people that supported me than I expected, especially some of the big name lifters and people that were very well respected in the sport.
Being the first licensed professional male boxer who happens to be trans, I never wanted to be the first. I just wanted to box.
So usually she uses her introductions as a way to kind of like grab the attention of the audience. I mean, literally, like, that all seemed just fine. Yeah, like, I guess if you cringe at trans people in sports, you might have found that cringy. Again, we're going to get into how this plays into her mindset because, like, I think that we can learn a lot about her mindset from this and, like, the greater context that we're operating in. But let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's just have a grand old time.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video topic is a little bit touchy. Although I'm not quite sure why I'm warning you about that. Have I ever done a single video on a subject that isn't touchy?
She's so funny. She's so funny, fam. She's so funny. It'd be so easy to fix the sound. The sound is fixed. Yeah, it's loud. All right. I adjusted it.
I don't think I ever have. Y'all don't come here for candle reviews. I'm sure there's someone out there who does it and does it very well, but bitch, that's not me.
I'm turning up the speed.
Let's talk. So we've talked about trans sports before, trans people in sports, but there are some recent developments. Recently, Idaho moved toward banning the inclusion of male to female trans people in girls' sports in college and high school. And on a federal level, there is the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, which was just introduced, has not passed yet, but
GOP senators seek to ban transgender girls from female sports. Yeah, this is terrible. All right? There's no argument made here yet, but especially if we're talking about like high schoolers, or if we're talking about like let's be clear, most high schoolers who are trans, especially those who have been on HRT since before their puberty or have been on hormone blockers, there's literally no reason to exclude them. There's literally none. There's no reason to. And this law, as it's proposed right here, would explicitly do that. Like, this is just anti-science. It's just bigotry. That's all it is. Like, the prevailing science shows that, like, the only available evidence right now that might show that, like, trans girls have any kind of advantage might be related to testosterone in the body. And even that's tenuous and can be mitigated through HRT, right? And this law just wouldn't care about that. So that's great.
Introduced, has not passed yet, but clearly the sentiment is there. The frustration with trans sports is increasing. You know, I've kind of predicted this for quite a while, that eventually people would get fed up enough to start passing laws about this stuff, and it is happening. In this video, I want to react to some trans athletes, a trans powerlifter, and I also want to talk about female to male trans athletes because I've never actually even talked about that, and I don't think anyone ever usually does. They're kind of, I don't know, people just really ignore that side of the coin.
I mean, the reason that most people ignore it is because, like, let's face it, most transphobes just kind of, well, I mean, like, I shouldn't say that. Most transphobes will usually focus primarily on trans women because, like, they just, well, usually it goes, like, there's, like, 2 layers to it, right? First, a lot of them just hate men, and they assume trans women to be men, right? Like, that's the 2-tier layer, right? You assume men are inherently dangerous, and then on top of that, you assume that trans women are men, right? Usually that's where it comes from. And then conversely, a lot of transphobes will focus differently on trans men, by virtue, like, by the same logic that they don't assume trans women to be women, they also don't assume trans women or trans men to be men, but rather that they are lost lesbian sisters, right? It's the whole Abigail Schreier book in a nutshell, right? So I mean, like, yeah, like in the confines of sports, like, most people don't focus on trans guys because, like, the same trans folks who turn that very critical eye on the trans women in sports, usually will look at trans men and be like, oh, you wanna compete in guys in big boy sports? Oh, you wanna compete in big boy sports? Oh, I mean, if you want to try, yeah, you're more than welcome to. Big girl. I mean, big boy. You're more than welcome to. Yeah, that's, let's be clear, like, they're usually like they usually basically just look at, like, trans guys as like, oh, well, there's no way you could have any advantage, so hey, try your best, go nuts. And that's what they do, right? That's the reason why they aren't talked about as much. Like, that's the reason. And I think really to say anything otherwise is kind of just, like, ignoring the fact that most people who criticize trans women in sports are just kind of, like, extreme bigots, right? Also, just as a side note, most of these same people, like, I'm just gonna fucking say it, most of these people don't actually care about women's sports. Like, none of these people actually fucking watch or care at all about women's sports for the most part. It's just that they fucking hate trans people, right? Like, dear God, I remember when I was in high school, like, no one fucking, like, the vast majority of people just didn't fucking, I shouldn't say that, because, like, a lot of people did not seem to care about women's sports as much as they should. And I feel like those same people who probably didn't care about women's sports, like, before or in the first place, now all of a sudden, oh, now it's the most concerning thing in the world. Now it's the most pressing thing in the world because trans women want to be able to do them. Like, it is very hypocritical, right? Like, it is. Non-binary people are a threat to everyone. Oh, that's a whole nother can of worms, right? But yeah, that's kind of the point. Like, most of these people just hate trans people. Like, that's the bottom line.
When it comes to the whole, like, sports issue, so we're gonna talk about that and all the bands and what my personal feelings on the bands are. So let's get started with Janae Marie Kroc. She's a trans powerlifter, and
so again, I don't know how old this photo is, but this is the person who we just read about, who, mind you, said that everything in Blaire's video is incorrect, and as a result, she's receiving a lot of hate. So let's take everything that she says from here on out with a pretty hefty grain of salt. Like, basically the whole salt shaker. Let's go ahead and take this with a grain of salt going forward.
Here's her story.
I had was being, like, the most intense, the craziest. So I was, like, the alpha of the alphas. And so I was, like, the last person in the world that anyone suspected. And that's what made it, I think, even more shocking and made it more difficult for me to come out. A lot more people that supported me than I expected, especially some of the big name lifters and people that were very well respected in the sport. And that was really nice to see. But, the fan base, there were a lot of people that were very upset about it.
Okay. So, disclaimer. I have no hate.
Disclaimer. Because apparently that was somehow, like, cringy or something. Like, Blaire, I hate to say it, but I think that I think you actually just hate trans people, which is ironic. Actually, no, I think it makes perfect sense because you are trans. I don't know. There probably is some internalized hatred. We'll talk more about that later. But I mean, like, shit, dude, girl. Sorry. I mean, like, I'm saying dude, like, generally colloquially, but, like, girl. Like, why? What the reaction? She's another trans woman. Fucking treat her like one.
Hatred in my heart for Janae. I think Janae seems like a really nice person and obviously is an amazing athlete. I mean, trans aside, anything else that's a part of the story aside, you cannot deny that is some amazing bodybuilding. Like, that's crazy. Like, who looks like that? Like, no one looks like that. And I'm not trying to make fun of her appearance. I know people will just run to that because people like to just say I'm a big old meanie rather than addressing any of my points, but I'm really not making fun of her appearance. I mean,
oh, well then, all right, let's hear the points. Yeah, let's go ahead and hear the points that you completely lied about. Yeah, let's hear the points that you completely lied about.
I think that obviously her appearance is outlandish, and I think that even she would admit that, because how could she not? But that's not the point.
Why are you commenting on her appearance then? Why? Why are you doing this? If you're gonna say that you're not gonna comment on it, then don't comment on it. Just don't. What's up, Jangles? Yeah, if you're not gonna comment on her appearance, then fucking don't. And don't say something like she looks outlandish. Holy shit, girl. What the fuck?
The bigger point is the idea, the concept of...
Does she use she, her? I will go ahead and double check. I added transgender, gender fluid, non-binary. I actually don't know. I'll start using they, them just to clarify because it doesn't specify here. I assume she, her, but I will use they, them from here on out just because it doesn't say and I just made an assumption. All right, we'll start using they.
Janae competing against biological women is ludicrous. It's almost intentionally ignorant. And anyone who thinks that that is some sort of level playing field...
She didn't. Fuck me. They didn't. I'm sorry, I gotta switch my mind. They literally didn't. They didn't. It's a lie. All of this is a lie. I think I basically, like, now the video is just gonna turn into saying that she's lying every single time. Like, that's what this is gonna be. It's just gonna be, Blaire, stop lying. Why are you lying? Why are you fucking lying? Why are you such a Weasley little liar? Why are you such a fucking Weasley little liar? Holy shit. Holy fucking shit. Still lying. Still lying. Holy shit. That's gonna be the video. Amazing.
Field is a liar. You're lying to her, you're lying to others, and you're lying to yourself, sweetie. The idea that Janae, who transitioned well into her adulthood and developed completely male, can now compete against women is bad. It's a bad idea. It's a failed idea. I mean, the audacity.
Okay, hold on. This, I think, is the perfect point. Okay, this kind of moment is exactly what I want to talk about, okay? Y'all remember the hypothetical? Y'all remember the hypothetical from earlier? All right? I want to talk about, I'm going to make full screen for this because we don't need her right here. We don't need Blaire right now. I want to talk about the nature of determining whether or not someone is acting in good faith. All right? I want to talk about the nature of whether or not someone is acting in good faith. And what I mean by that is when you have someone, for example, who says, oh, I care about trans people, let's put their actions under scrutiny and see if that's actually the motivation for their actions. Okay? Let's put that under scrutiny. Because here's the thing. If we're taking this back to the J.K. Rowling example, all right, let's go back to J.K. Rowling, all right? Now, the argument that I hear all the time, in fact, this is basically the argument I heard from Buck when I was having my debate with him, is that, oh, J.K. probably means very well, but she just has a very bad way of phrasing it. She's just expressing her fears. She's just expressing her concerns, her personal concerns, and we should help her because she's just scared and cares about trans people, and she wants to do her best. We should just be there to help her. And here's the thing about that, all right? Because on one hand, I agree, I can't read her mind. None of us can read her mind. None of us can know with infallible certainty whether or not someone is, like, what someone's motivations are, right? We can never know that with 100%. I'll hold on to that. But there are some things that we can focus on, and there are some analyses that we can look at and make a pretty damn strong inductive conclusion, right? Like, there are some things that we can look at. And with JK, I think that the biggest evidence, like the strongest evidence that she is in fact not acting in good faith, that she in fact doesn't care about trans people, is the fact that when she repeatedly over and over and over doubled and tripled and quadrupled down on her, let's be clear, explicitly transphobic positions, and when other people overwhelmingly, in vast numbers, everyone told her, girl, you're fucking wrong. And this is terrible. Stop it. Apologize. Do not do this. You're wrong here. the fact that she heard that, I mean, how could she fucking not? Literally, fucking Daniel Radcliffe came out and said trans rights, which, by the way, is amazing. Honestly, I kind of want like a Daniel Radcliffe trans rights emote in the server now that I'm thinking about it. There's no fucking way that J.K. Rowling isn't aware that people have criticized her, and there's no way that she's not aware of the criticisms that she has received. And yet, despite receiving those criticisms, she hasn't changed her mind. She hasn't changed her views. In fact, she's doubled down on it. She's written the fucking book based on them. If she cared about trans people, then you know what she would do? She would fucking apologize and stop this bullshit. She would drop this and we would move on. But she hasn't. And that is the same thing with Blaire. Because this is not the first time that Blaire has, and let's be clear, lied. Explicitly. And mind you, I haven't been keeping track of Blaire's record. I haven't been keeping track of all of the times that Blaire's lied. But people who have been watching me can remember back when she covered what Trump has done to the trans community, she was explicitly 100,000% wrong when she said that Trump didn't actually take away our federal healthcare rights. Because he did. I literally went to someone on the board of directors for the LGBT Bar Association and got his professional legal opinion on it. She's lied before, and she's been overwhelmingly criticized for having lied before. Everyone, like, she knows the criticisms that have been levied against her time and time and time again. Has she ever, like, apologized? Has she ever stopped doing this? Unfortunately, everything she said about me was incorrect, and as a result, I am receiving a lot of hate. Janae's pronouns are she, her. She clarified an Instagram reply. Okay, cool. Just making sure. Thank you. She apologized once in her whole career. Yeah, and then she, like, immediately started going back on it the day after. Very sincere. Now, let's be clear. At this point, I am basically certain that she's not acting in good faith. If she did, then she would, like, take down some of the videos, or all of them, where she's been shown demonstrably to be wrong, and she would apologize, which she hasn't. She hasn't apologized at all, even though she blatantly lied and misrepresented and caused someone to incur fucking hate from her fans. Now, some of you might look at me and be like, well, Riley, why do you say that she's lying? Because lying implies intent. We can say that she misrepresented what happened, but this, we can't read her mind. And that goes back to the inductive logic. Because let me ask you, if someone puts out a statement, let's say that someone puts out a statement and does not know that they're wrong. All right, let's say that someone puts out a statement or a work or a video with a lot of content that they don't know is wrong. All right, let's say that. Is there really a difference between them intentionally putting out that video knowing that's wrong, or putting it out not knowing it's wrong but finding out later and not taking it down? I would say those are equivalent circumstances because the outcome is the same. You have a piece of work that is out in the public domain. It continues to be out there. You're not taking it down, even though you know that the contents in it are wrong. There is no way she doesn't know that this is wrong. There's no way she doesn't know that this is completely a misrepresentation. And in that case, I hold her just as morally culpable. I hold her just as morally culpable as if she had lied. To me, it makes no difference. It's either she put it out intentionally, knowing that it was wrong, just to get views, or she didn't know, and she keeps it out even though she knows that it's wrong. So inductively, we can know with basic certainty, even though we can't read her mind, we can know with basic certainty that she's just a bad faith actor. She's just a grifter. She's just a liar. And not only that, but that's pretty shitty. And this isn't the first time she's done this. Blaire has gone on Like this, like anyone who has seen Blaire knows that she has done time and time and time again, like use old pictures of like trans people pre-HRT or pre-transition as a way to try and make her thumbnails, I'm sure, more eye-catchier, more whatever. Even though she just like shits on the people that she talks about for clicks. That's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah, I saw that. Someone else brought it up. So, if anyone asks me whether or not Blaire is a good faith actor, no, I don't think so. I basically have given up on the Blaire redemption arc. I think she's just a grifter. I think she's just a bad faith person. And people who are close to her, who know me, you're fine to believe whatever you want, but I cannot in good faith say, after like the overwhelming evidence to the contrary, that she is in any way like I can never expect her to actually meaningfully change like this far into her career, and after so many times of repeatedly lying, and after so many times of shitting on other trans people, no, I don't think that there's anything salvageable here. I don't. So I'm not gonna waste my time on it. And yeah, I'm just gonna dunk on her because that's at least the most fun I can get out of this point.
Of anyone to pretend or insist that there are no very obvious benefits that Janae, as someone who developed completely male well into her adulthood, would enjoy when competing against people who did not.
And again, this is why Janae never competed against women or in women's sports.
Developed male is insanity. And something we don't often see is that Janae actually went back post-transition and competed against men just because, I guess, like it was kind of like she's gone back and forth competing with men and women.
This is a lie.
Based on I don't know what. I mean, that's just
speed this up because it's all going to be lies.
Okay, pun intended. I'm a fucking tranny, so I can make that pun. Anyways.
Wait, what? Hold on.
No pun intended. Against men, just because, I guess, like it was kind of like she's gone back and forth competing with men and women based on I don't know what. I mean, that's just a dick move. No pun intended. Okay, pun intended. I'm a fucking tranny, so I can make that pun.
No, you don't get to. If I knew that you weren't fucking a transphobic grifter, then yeah, maybe, but no. No, this is just gross.
Anyways, a very important point that I see almost no one ever making online, and these are conversations that you guys know I follow very closely online in the discourse. I never see anyone making the point that like the age at which someone transitions matters a lot when it comes to should they be on a certain team when they're playing sports. I mean, if a male to female trans person transitions at 12 or 13 and never ever experiences even a drop of male puberty and never develops male, like you have a much better argument for why that person is cleared to go on the girls' team. But when you have someone who is in their 30s or 40s and transitions and gets to keep all of the muscle mass.
We're going to get into this argument, but again, this doesn't apply to this situation. The person that we're talking about never competed in women's sports. Again, we'll get to the argument. I have an argument to make, but like for right now, this is irrelevant because it doesn't apply to the person that we were talking about to begin with. It doesn't.
And the bone density and the height and the hand size and just all of that. What I can't. Let's toss some facts, rapid fire style here. Biologically speaking, male athletes average 4 to 12% body mass. Females average 12 to 23, so double. Males have longer limbs and more bone density, thicker bones, and this is important to note because hormones, no matter.
Oh, hold on. Do you have any sources? Oh no. Oh, you don't have any sources. Oh. Well, that's neat. Okay, let's go ahead and let's make the fucking argument. Again, it's a complicated one, but let's go ahead and do it. All right? Boop. Okay. So, let's talk about this, all right? I'm screaming. This is my sport and my field. She is so wrong. Hey, Jangles, hop into the call right now. Let's fucking talk about this. Please, get the fuck in here. Get into the waiting room, all right? Get into the waiting room. I'm gonna bring you on if you want to talk about this, all right? I would fucking love to double team this, all right? But until you get on, I'm gonna start going over some studies that I have, all right? But yeah, Jangles, get the fuck in here. We're gonna tag team the shit out of this, all right? All right. Anyway, so let's begin with some hard facts, all right? Basically, I'm gonna summarize first. because I don't know how long Jangles will take to get in here. Give me 5. Okay, fine. Then we'll go over the studies that I have, and then you can come on and talk about what you have. All right. So to begin, according to a systematic literature review relating to sports participation and competitive sports policies concerning trans people published in October 2016 in Sports Medicine, researchers found that, quote, there is no direct or consistent research suggesting transgender female individuals or male individuals have an athletic advantage at any stage of their transition, for example, using cross-sex hormones, gender-affirming surgery, and therefore competitive sports policies that place restrictions on transgender people need to be considered and potentially revised. They also found that transgender people had a mostly negative experience in competitive sports because of the restrictions that sports policies placed on them, and that the majority of transgender competitive sports policies that were reviewed were not evidence-based. Like, that is the bottom line that we're operating from, all right? Like, from a baseline, most policies that exist nowadays are just not evidence-based, all right? Most of them are just based on, like, stereotypes about trans people. Like, yeah, like, people are going to bring up, like, differences between what they define as, like, yeah, Blaire will bring up the stats that she did right now, even though she didn't fucking cite any of them. But, like, the fact of the matter is most policies that exist right now don't really care about trans people, at least not in an empirical sense, right? But according to a study that looking at the effects of testosterone on athletic performance published in the Endocrine Reviews in October 2018, quote, the available, albeit incomplete evidence makes it highly likely that the sex difference in circulating testosterone in the adults explains most, if not all, of the sex differences in sporting performance, right? Primarily, the evidence that exists right now is, like, it's tentative, but most of it shows that it's just testosterone, right? Like, that's mainly what you got. That will explain most of the differences. This makes sense since, according to a study published in Sports Medicine in 2017, looking at the 2,027 observations of competition, best performances, and mass spectrometry measured serum androgen concentrations obtained during the 2011-2013 International Association of Athletic Federations World Championships and testing the influence of serum androgen levels on performance for men and women. Researchers found that female athletes with high FT levels have a significant competitive advantage over those with low FT in the 400-meter hurdles, 800-meter hammer throw, and pole vault. Additionally, in a study published in the European Journal of Endocrinology in 2015 assessing the evolution of body composition and bone metabolism in trans men during the first year of HRT treatment, researchers found that short-term testosterone treatment in trans men increased muscle mass and bone turnover. Additionally, in a case study analyzing race times for 8 transgender female runners who competed in distance races as both male and female using a mathematical model called age grading, published in the Journal of Sports Cultures and Identities in 2015, as a group, the 8 study participants had remarkably similar age grade scores in both male and female gender, making it possible to state that the transgender women run distances at approximately the same level for their respective gender, both before and after gender transition, right? Like, that evidence, like this and other evidence, shows that, like, it really is like, if you have a trans woman who, even after she has been through puberty, right, and there might be some, like, I don't know, I'll be interested in talking to Jangles about this, right, but, like, this shows that there's, like, evidence that after a trans woman has been on HRT for such a long time, even if she's already gone through puberty, then she probably will be just fine as far as being able to, like, adequately and fairly compete against other women, like other women, right? Additionally, in a study published by National Collegiate Athletic Association, researchers found that any athletic advantage a transgender girl or woman arguably may have as a result of her prior testosterone levels dissipate about after 1 year of estrogen therapy, right? Again, the same idea. Lastly, in a publication in the Journal of Medical Ethics from 2018, the authors concluded that while inclusion is an important principle of sport, including elite sport, inclusion does not outweigh the importance of fairness for cis women athletes. Again, this is a rough quote. It's always a rough quote. Hang with me. The performance advantage likely held by trans women is not a tolerable unfairness. This is not an attempt to exclude trans women from elite sport. Instead, we conclude that it is both important to extend and celebrate diversity while maintaining fairness for cis women's sport. To be simultaneously inclusive and fair at the elite level, the male-female binary must be discarded in favor of a more nuanced approach. We conclude that gender binary in sport has perhaps had its day. I'm pretty sure that this is actually just the gender abolitionist argument for sports. Which is really interesting, right? And this makes sense, since according to a publication in Nature International Weekly, biologists have been building a more nuanced view of sex, but society has yet to catch up. True, more than half a century of activism from members of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community have softened social attitudes to sexual orientation and gender. Many societies are now comfortable with men and women crossing conventional societal boundaries in their choice of appearance, career, and sexual partner. But when it comes to sex, there is still intense social pressure from society to conform to the binary model. Wait, where do I go? Hey, go up to streaming and join the verified room. People, get Jangles into there. Yet if biologists want to continue to show that sex is a spectrum, then society will still have to grapple with the consequences and work out where and how to draw the line. Many transgender and intersex activists dream of a world where a person's sex or gender is irrelevant. Although some governments are moving in this direction, Greenberg is pessimistic. Hey, you're here. Do you mind if I finish the quote? Okay, also, you're super quiet. Greenberg is pessimistic about the prospects of realizing this dream, in the United States at least. Although some governments are moving in this direction, Greenberg... I hear a bit of echo from you. I think that to get rid of gender markers altogether or to allow a third intermediate gender marker is going to be difficult, right? Yeah, so basically the idea... And Jangles, I'd actually be really interested in talking to you about this, right? Well, actually, no, hold on. I got through basically all the sources I want to get through. So, like, what are your immediate thoughts? I want to hear from you because, or first, actually, do you want to, like, can you please, I'm sorry, could you,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, could you, like, introduce yourself? I know this is, like, super random and last minute, just so that the audience can know who you are if they don't already know.
All right, hello, everyone. My name is Jangles, Sciencelad. I have a master's degree in biomechanics. I competed as a powerlifter. I've been a personal trainer for 10 years. So this is, like, and I do a lot of, like, research and videos on like trans advocacy and the science around transitioning and all that fun stuff. So this is like all of my things are intersecting at once. And my immediate thoughts was just a guttural scream.
Oh my god! All right. So let me get your, because I basically went through everything I want to talk about as far as like sources I got. Because mind you, like I can only do research. It's not like I have a background in this. I can only go off of what the sources I collect. So I want to hear like your opinion as being someone who's like studied this area. Like, what are your immediate thoughts?
Okay, so when I intentionally, when I was doing my master's degree and I was in my advanced exercise physiology class, I intentionally wanted my presentation to be on sex differences in sport, so I could like look at all, like, what does all the research say, what does the preponderance of evidence say about, why there are sex differences in sport and like how that, affects everything from like hemoglobin to muscle mass to bone density, all that fun stuff. And basically what they found is like hormones are the number one thing, like everything. They are like the Yes, so hormones are the thing that causes most of the other differences in sport. And so if you take that and so if you mess with someone's hormones, and that's just, I know, you know what I mean when I say mess with someone's hormones, if that's taken away, if that's altered, everything else is altered. All of the sex differences are mitigated by hormone use. And so if you have someone who is taking testosterone blockers and on estrogen for a significant length of time, that is going to incredibly narrow that gap to the point where it's just within the margin of error.
Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, like, that is basically entirely consistent with everything that I read. I mean, that's really cool because it means that, I don't know, I feel good that I did some halfway decent research. So yeah, I mean, like, this seems to be, like, really, because, I mean, essentially what Blaire is getting at is that, like, so let me ask you this question. All right, let me ask you this question. Does that also apply, because, like, basically, like, what I was able to find had, like, mixed results. Does that even apply to, like, let's say that you have a trans woman who went through, like, testosterone-based puberty earlier in her life. Later on in life, she goes on to HRT, and then she, goes on HRT for like 1 or 2 years, right? Would that still mitigate most of the differences between them being able to compete with other women in sports?
There are so many other factors that need to be considered before, like, we can make a positive determination there.
Okay.
So, for example, if this person was an athlete and they developed a significantly, like, a lot of muscle mass, like they were a football player, they lifted a ton, and they did that for 10 years, and then they went on HRT. There is some evidence to say that, muscle memory and recruiting muscles and recruiting motor units and things like that can be carried over into the point where you'll make more use, even with the hormones, you can just make use of your muscle mass better than someone who never had those neurological patterns embedded into their system.
Sure.
Does that make sense at all? I'm sorry, this short notice.
Yeah. No, you're completely fine. All right, so then let's change that. So let's say that we're talking about someone who, like, was not, like, a college football player, like a college, like, power lifter. Like someone who didn't, like, completely bulk up and then decide to come out as a trans woman. Are they gonna usually have any kind of, like, major statistical advantage against other women in sports?
Probably not. Especially not when you get to the point where you're actually competing, because then the differences are going to be so minute and small and, like, within the margin of error, because the determining factor is training. That is the most important factor. Not how much of a hormone you have. It's how much have you trained, and have you trained efficiently, and did you have your genetics outside of your chromosomes? So at that point, if you start from like nil, and then they go on the therapy, and then they go on the testosterone blockers and things like that, the differences are probably going to be really, really minuscule, to the point where training is going to be far and away the determining factor in their performance. Hello?
Amazing.
Uh-oh.
No. Oh, hello? No, I just shared the screen because I figured, like, hey, if you're here, do you want to go through the rest of the video with me?
Sure.
All right, cool.
I'm watching it on my end, so I'll just be a little bit behind.
Okay, cool. All right, this should work then.
Out of the age you take them, do not reverse the development of your bone structure. Once you have it for life. Doesn't matter how long you're on hormones post that. If you have it, you have it. It does not reverse it. It does not change it. That does not.
So, Jangles, based on what you just told me, she's basically implying that even if you've gone through puberty, like any kind of like if a trans woman's gone through male puberty, that there's no way that she would be able to like adequately, fairly compete against cis women later on. That seems to pretty squarely fly in the face of everything that you just said, right?
A little bit, yeah.
All right,
Hence
cool.
the screaming.
Hey. Do we want to place bets on what kind of degrees that Blaire White has in this field, if she's ever like done any kind of physical training or study? I'm sorry, what's your degree in again? I can't remember the exact name of it. Just a reminder.
Degree in biomechanics.
A master's degree in biomechanics. Do we want to place any bets on? Hey, Chad, do we want to place any bets on whether or not Blaire has a master's degree in biomechanics? Hey, put your bets in chat. I'll give you a whole second. Actually, no, hold on. I was a little unfair. I kind of want to do this meme again. I know it's being a little meme. Sorry, let's look at her sources. Oh, all of her amazing sources in chat, like a link to her merch, and a link to her Twitter and Insta, a link to her Snapchat, and a link to her second channel.
Oh man.
Oh my god. This is hell. This is absolutely hell.
Not give you wider hips in terms of bones. It does not make you shorter.
Yeah. But hey, it's really easy to get away with having bad sources if you just don't list them.
Oh yeah,
So,
I know, right? No, that's absolutely amazing.
Just put up the words and numbers on screen. No one's gonna question them.
No one will question them. Yeah, totally.
It was a problem.
I competed against a biological male, and they beat me.
Madison lost to Jude Eastwood, the first transgender student athlete to compete across country in Division I at the University of Montana. Madison and her teammate Mary Marshall believe losing to Eastwood was unfair since Eastwood was born a male.
When you look at a lot of the facts and how a male body develops through puberty and like all the advantages that they have biologically on females, that it really bugged me.
So my whole thing is,
I mean, this is just another example, right? Also, I just want to point out, and I guess that this is kind of the thing that bugs me about this, is because like a lot of these, because I mean, like the other week we went over another video just to give you an idea. It was from Alliance Defending Freedom. It might have been the same girl. I don't actually know. But like Alliance Defending Freedom had the story of this high school girl who said effectively that she was entitled to win a race, except that she was happened to be beaten by two trans women, also in track, right?
Yeah.
The problem with this is that there's kind of like this assumption that people are entitled to win competitions, right? And I feel like that just kind of is contradictory with the nature of sports. Like, no one is fucking entitled. Like, let's be clear. If she didn't fucking win, all right, or I should put it this way: if she didn't compete against like that trans woman, either the person that we're talking about here or like the person in the Alliance Defending Freedom video, right? Like, she still could have very well lost, right? Like, there's no reason that she was entitled. Like, she wasn't entitled to win. No one's entitled to win, and it's kind of funny to me because like usually conservatives are the ones making the argument that like trans or that the left are the ones giving out too many first place trophies. Oh, we're giving out too many first place trophies. Oh, we're giving out just consolidation trophies to fucking everyone who deserves it. Yet they're the ones who are crying that they don't get a first place trophy when they feel they deserve it. It's so fucking ironic to me. And
isn't it great that when we have to like point to these like really, really tiny instances of like these trans women winning like a nothing powerlifting competition from like a no-name powerlifting federation, like that no one cares about whatsoever. They set a world record in this federation with like 100 people in it, or like there's one high school the trans women win. Like I remember like, so this is an actual true fact. All right, I'm not joking whatsoever. I have trained a world record powerlifter. This is a true statement. Okay?
Really? Holy shit.
It sounds really impressive, doesn't it?
Oh god. All right.
Yeah. I've trained a world record powerlifter because he competed at a very small federation, so a competition from a very small federation, and he was literally the only person in his age, weight, and class to ever have competed. And so technically, he holds the world record, or at least did back when I trained him. So, now that seems a whole lot less impressive.
Oh my god, that's amazing. No, but I talked about this a little bit earlier in stream, right? Like, let's be real. Most of these people, like most people who are talking about this, like didn't fucking care about these sports beforehand, right? They just care now because, and let's be real about it, because they just hate trans people, right? Like that's the reason most of these people care, right? Because like no one was like getting all up in a bunch about like, oh, did you all hear about like who won the women's basketball? And mind you, like I don't think that this is something, I'm not saying that this is a good thing in society, and I think that we should like celebrate women's sports more, right? But like the fact of the matter is like when we're talking about people who are like especially more conservative, they just don't fucking care, right? Like they don't. They only care right now because like trans women are trying to like actually be able to like, I don't know, like be able to like have normal things in society, and they are just like, oh, trans women wanna do normal things, and so well, that's unfair to the women who I definitely care about now and have always cared about as strongly as I do right now.
Oh, absolutely. And fairness in sports is incredibly important. Like we all care about fairness in sports, which is why you would think that they would look up like the sports that they're talking about, powerlifting. You would think you would look up the federation that Kroc competed in, the UPA. I put this in chat a few times, but just in case it needs to be said again, the UPA, the main division, is not drug tested. So you can be a woman taking steroids and you are not cheating in that division.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. The UPA does have a drug-tested division, but if you actually go to their website and look at their rule book, when it's at the very bottom, like page 25 of their rule book, because I checked to make sure I wasn't lying to you. They said if you fail out of the drug-tested division, they'll make you compete in the regular division because the regular division doesn't drug test.
That is
so amazing. You can take steroids. You can take steroids in the sport, and it is not cheating. That's how Kroc ended up with like a 2,500 total or something like that.
Amazing.
So,
I think that there's probably, I don't know, like I skimmed through the video. The rest of it seems like it's just talking about like trans guy athletes. And I mean, like, I don't know what she has to say about them. I'm not really concerned because I think at this point, like she's already, like the main point I wanted to get at, right? Like, do I care specifically about what she has to say about like trans guys? Now, at the end of the day, like that's not the main thing behind this video, right? Like we all know that she's wrong. We know that she's full of shit. That's not like the main thing here, right? Like the main thing I want to like.
I think it's incredibly fair to say that she knows that Janae is Janae, right?
Yeah.
Janae or anything. Okay, make sure I'm pronouncing it right. Blaire knows that Janae doesn't compete because a lot of the footage, if I'm not mistaken, I think the footage that she got was from this documentary made about Janae and her transitioning. And so in that documentary, if I recall correctly, I'm pretty sure it was very explicitly stated that she is not going to compete.
That's my understanding as well.
Yeah, and this was in the documentary. So if you had watched the entire documentary, you would have seen that. And so to watch that, to get the footage from it, she's either incredibly lazy to the point where like is so lazy to the point of the distinction between lazy and dishonest is basically non-existent, or she did watch it and then just say, well, no one's going to watch this anyway. They don't actually care about finding out the truth or knowing more about the issue. They'll just trust what I have to say, and therefore I don't have to do it. I don't have to do any research because it never mattered in the first place.
Yeah. Now here, and that's basically where I'm at with it. And here's the thing about it for me, and this is like the inference that I draw based off of that, right? Because I think that all of that is basically correct. I feel like that's all like very representative of what we're seeing right now. The thing that makes this important for me is because lately I've been struggling a lot personally, and maybe a lot of other people have been struggling with this, but these are the kind of like things that I think about, right? I always think about whether or not to ascribe someone the charitability of like the assumption that they are acting in good faith when I criticize someone, because it does influence how I look over their content. If I think that someone is genuinely acting in good faith and is like actually trying to make like a constructive good faith criticism or commentary or whatever, then I'll generally be pretty kind and like charitable when I look at their video, right? But like with Blaire, it's been harder for me because she always says, oh, well, I'm trying to help the trans community. Oh, well, I'm trying to help the trans community. And there are a lot of people who I've come to know who always say, oh, well, Blaire's a good person. It's just that her videos are so different from how she actually, is in person, right? Oh, her videos are so... And so I've been thinking about it. And I think that this ultimately kind of cinches it for me, right? Because going back, I'm not sure if you were watching at the beginning of the video, but basically the idea, right, is that if you are someone who puts out something explicitly 100% wrong and which causes harm to another person, either A, you knew it was wrong when you put it out and you were just lying when you put it out intentionally and therefore like assumed moral culpability like pretty explicitly for any harm caused to that person. I mean, I guess that moral culpability would come up either way. Or B, you didn't know about it at the first hand, you're just a dumbass, but then you later figure out that you were wrong and you decide to keep it up anyway. Because reminder, this video is still fucking up. And so
the biggest red flag is because I started watching your stream just as you were starting to talk about the video, just as you started to play it. And what really stuck out to me, and this is just me trying to recall it correctly, Blaire never explicitly made the positive statement that Janae currently competes in women's powerlifting. She merely heavily alluded to that being the case by saying, now, if Janae were to compete in powerlifting, I think we can all agree that would be bad. So, like, it seems really duplicitous. It seems intentionally vague so that she can weasel around, like, actually, I never lied. I never said.
Oh my god! All right, no, I consider that even worse. All right, like, listen. All right,
yeah, no, that's way worse. Yeah.
All right, like, let's also short little hiatus, right, to like fucking lawyer land. Like, I think that everyone just assumes, like, all right, like, let's be clear, all right? I think that everyone just assumes that, like, in the law, if you're able to, like, for example, that, like, language and specific language matters a lot, and that there are a lot of ways that you can technically be right on certain things. And while that can be true in some instances, for the most part, especially in areas like contract law, tort law, and similar kinds of law, like, the law basically understands that, like, okay, yeah, you might technically say something, wink, wink, nudge, 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 yeah, all that. Like, the law understands that you mean something completely different, right? Like, it doesn't really matter if you technically say if she did happen to compete in male powerlifting, because, like, the understood assumption from talking about it in the context that you are is that, like, you're signaling to the audience that she probably did, right? Like, that's the interpretation that you're making. That's what you're signaling to the audience. Any reasonable person watching this would take that meaning away based on the way that you put it. And so it really doesn't matter, like, how you exactly phrased it if you didn't make it explicit enough that, like, she wasn't doing that, right? Because you're basically just spending the entire first half of this video just dragging this person through the dirt, right? Like, even going as far as to make a fucking joke about her genitals. Like, get your shit together. Holy
like,
fuck.
How can someone, like, listen, like, now, I'm not trying to make fun of her appearance, even though it's outlandish, but, like...
I fucking know, right? Yeah, no, I cannot in good faith look at this and believe that she is a good faith actor. I cannot, like, I can't. There's no way. And so, like, if anyone, like, asks me going forward, like, if anyone asks me, I can say with the strongest, most absolute conviction, yeah, Blaire is just a liar and a grifter. Either she genuinely believes the things that she says and she just fucking hates other trans people, or she doesn't and she's just a grifter for money. It is almost certainly one of those two.
I've listened to enough Blaire to know how to get around this. Like, I'm not calling Blaire a liar, even though she is, okay? And then just keep going.
Oh my god. No, that's basically...
I didn't...
Oh, I'm not. Oh, yeah, I'm not calling Blaire a liar, even though I did. Yeah, no, I'm not calling Blaire a liar, but she totally is. Yeah, no, she 100% is. But I'm not calling her a liar. I'm definitely not calling her a liar, even though I am. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah, I totally get it. YouTube chat, like the stream. I think that's basically all I wanted to say on this. I feel like this is really good for me because, like, I have been really struggling with whether or not, like, what kind of, like, faith or charitability to ascribe to Blaire for a long time, because, like, I do care about this. She probably doesn't care about me. I mean, I don't know, she's probably aware of me that I've debated, like, Buck Angel. I've apparently angered much of TERF and transmed Twitter, which brings me so much joy. Oh yeah, no, it's great. It's absolutely wonderful. I'm living rent free in their heads now. It's amazing. It's very cozy. It's very nice in here. It's very warm. They house me well. But yeah, Blaire is aware of me. I don't know. I look forward to us having a chat if we ever do, and inevitably when we do. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Talk to you later, Blaire.
Nice.
All right.
Any more science memes from me?
Nah, I think we're pretty good. I mean, like, next segment I'm going to be doing is on the Supreme Court pick and Ben Shapiro's take on it. If you want to stick around for that. I'm not sure how interested you are. It's up to you.
I'll let you get back to your stream. I'll just lurk in the chat. And I apologize coming in like stuttering and all that stuff.
Oh no, you were completely fine. This was amazing. This was like listen, if there was anyone I wanted in for this conversation, it was you. It was like you were the person. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
I will talk to you later.
Bye.
Have a good rest of your stream.